Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast, Dougie Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Super Bowl 57. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we have officially passed that time of the NFL season. The culmination of the NFL season, of course, is the Super Bowl. This season, we had the Eagles representing the NFC, the Chiefs representing the AFC, and in the Super Bowl, well, one team's work all season, it comes to fruition with a Super Bowl win. The other team, well, it comes to fruition with a Super Bowl appearance, which, it's moral victories. Look at it how you will, accept them how you will, but ultimately it's a little bit disappointing. You got all this win, you didn't win, but that's just ultimately how it goes. Now, I will admit, officiating kind of did rear its head towards the end on that last Chiefs drive. Was it pass interference? Was it not pass interference? I can see the argument for just kind of letting that sort of thing go. Granted, I don't know if it quite defined the game, but it certainly did give the Chiefs a little bit more room to operate in terms of draining the clock, or it gave them a better opportunity to drain the clock. Nonetheless, Chiefs win this Super Bowl. It's their second Super Bowl win with Andy Reid as the coach and Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback. So while Mahomes is not staying there in Dynasty, I wouldn't quite say that either. Granted, a couple Super Bowl wins certainly is something, but given the level of competition in the AFC, I wouldn't quite call him a dynasty just yet. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action. And the way we're going to be discussing this Super Bowl is I already have a couple players picked out from each team, and then we'll just kind of branch off from there. And we're going to start with the winners of Super Bowl 57, that being the Chiefs. So Patrick Mahomes completed 21 to 27 passes, 182 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So Kansas City was trailing 24-14 at halftime, and Mahomes was just 8 of 13 for 89 yards and 1 score. Then Coach Andy Reid and the Chiefs would flip the switch and score on every single one of their second half possessions to take home the second Super Bowl victory in franchise history. It was another, or would it be second? It's gotta be third. I think it's third. I had that mistyped. I think it's the second one with Reid and Mahomes, but the third one overall. And let me just change that in the script real quick. So yeah, it's the third Super Bowl in franchise history, I think, if I remember correctly. Unless there was a fourth one I'm not remembering correctly. Either way, for Patrick Mahomes, he had a season in which he seemingly shattered the mold for the most valuable player in football. He won the Super Bowl MVP, and he won the league MVP. And he also led the league in yards and passing touchdowns. And overall this season, I guess if you needed to describe him, you could describe him as consistently efficient despite losing Tyreek Hill in the offseason. Once again, he was locked on to Travis Kelce, and behind him, Mahomes would improvise, spending different parts of the season featuring either Juju Smith-Schuster or Jared McKinnon as the number 2 option in the passing game. That remains Mahomes' only real concern, if you want to call it that, heading into his age 28 campaign. The Chiefs have to add weapons behind Kelce, who's 33 years old, who, even though he didn't look like he's fallen off a cliff, or who's played didn't fall off a cliff, he might be nearing that cliff, even as an elite option, or at least as the number 1. The scary part for the rest of the league is 2022 was probably as weak as Mahomes' supporting cast will ever be, depending on what the teams do in the off season. But yeah, this is crazy to think he's not even 30, and already he's accomplished so much. Travis Kelce caught 6 of 6 targets for 81 yards and a touchdown. So Kelce's first quarter touchdown was the second of his Super Bowl career. Appearing in all 17 games, he earned first-team All-Pro honors as he scored a career-high 12 touchdowns, while posting his second most yards. Even with Tyreek Hill and the downfield attention he commanded gone, Kelce remained uncoverable over the middle of the field. Although the 33-year-old's efficiency has waned ever so slightly in recent years, he's aging about as well as any tight end in league history. His ongoing production at such a rugged position, it's amazing, but it's also why the Chiefs really shouldn't try counting on it for forever. Kelsey will remain a top 3 tight end in the league for 2023, but a dip in production, especially from this year's first mark, likely to happen. Still probably going to be a great season overall. And although Kelsey has no guaranteed money left on his deal, he's not a candidate for a contract adjustment unless it is in his favor. And ultimately, I think if the Chiefs have some money, I'm sure the Chiefs will throw some money his way and everything else, because how can you not? I mean, that was your number one option in the passing game. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to address that passing game. Juju Smith-Schuster was signed to a 1-year deal. I would understand letting that guy go in free agency. I mean, he's not a number 1 guy. He's at number 2 or 3 at best. MVS, I think he's still under contract, but they could cut him with... if they could cut him and save some money there, there wouldn't be any dead money issues there. MVS kind of like a one-trick pony. No catches in the Super Bowl. He's kind of like a downfield, stretch the field sort of guy, but doesn't really offer much else. Yeah, and so, wide receivers could have been a serious problem for them, but didn't quite slow them down. Isaiah Pacheco probably going to be the starting running back next year. He certainly came on strong late in the season. And then, Jared McKinnon also going to be a free agent as well, too. Granted, Jared McKinnon could certainly, make some plays with the ball in his hand, but did he do enough to earn another contract with Kansas City? Maybe I could see him coming back, but definitely, Chiefs might want to look at upgrading the supporting cast this season, given Brett Veach, I think Brett Veach will be able to figure something out. Also got to give credit to Kansas City's defense as well, too. They had quite the task ahead of them dealing with Jalen Hurts, and they certainly gave up some yards and some scores. But yeah, and I guess AJ Brown and Devontae Smith did get the better of them. But I mean, hey, you played that Eagles offense about as well as you could. So I thought overall solid effort from the Kansas City defense and everything else. But also, again, it's a complete team effort without Mahomes at quarterback and without the defense making plays when needed. You're not winning this game. As for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts would complete 27 of 38 passes for 204 yards and a touchdown, adding 15 carries for 70 yards and 3 additional touchdowns. So Hurts would also lose a fluke fumble that was unfortunately returned for a touchdown. Hurts' 3 rushing scores were not only the most for a quarterback in Super Bowl history, but they also tied Terrell Davis's record for rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Although his shoulder injury was probably a factor in a few of those underthrown deep balls, Hurts did everything within his power to will the Eagles to a title, threading a number of needles through the air. It just wasn't enough. Supposedly still a question mark entering the regular season. Her 3rd-year pro Hurts emerged as a legitimate MVP candidate, with his case only kind of loosened some traction after he injured his shoulder in Week 15. Hurts produced 10-plus rushing scores for his 2nd straight year, and he had a good shot at winning the rushing crown, and he might have even won it without that shoulder injury. As it was, he had to settle for 13 touchdowns on the ground. The real news was through the air, where Hurts would take advantage of having A.J. Brown as his number 1 wide receiver and really coming into his own as an NFL passer with the assistance of A.J. Brown as his number 1 wide receiver. He posted new career passing highs across the board, finishing as a 2nd-team All-Pro behind his Super Bowl opponent Patrick Mahomes. Although Hurts may never become an elite deep ball thrower, his passing has progressed to the point that he might be the most dangerous dual threat in the league, the most dangerous dual threat option in the league over Lamar Jackson. He's also due to get paid as he heads into the final year of his rookie deal, and given how savvy Howie Roseman is, the general manager, he'll probably get a Jalen Hurts extension done this summer rather than waiting until 2024 and hitting him with the franchise tag, because quarterback salaries are going up, and if you don't lock him down now, while the price is cheaper, using air quotes, it's going to be more expensive than next year. I expect him to get something done, but again, I think the biggest thing to remember in negotiations is that ultimately it's up to the player. If the player wants to get paid, the extension will get done. If the player doesn't want to get paid, the extension's not going to get done. That's what's going on with Lamar Jackson right now. A.J. Brown caught 6 of 8 targets for 96 yards and a touchdown. So Brown's 45-yard touchdown in the opening moments of the 2nd quarter was one of the very best plays of a classic back-and-forth game. Dominating his defender one-on-one, Brown would make a textbook over-the-shoulder grab, arriving from Tennessee in the offseason. or I guess, yeah, during the draft. Brown would have his healthiest and most productive campaign in 2022. It was the first time he did not miss a contest since his rookie year, while his 1,496 yards were a new career high by 421. Only Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Devontae Adams would post more yardage. This in a run-first offense that also had Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert to feed targets. A true alpha number one wide receiver who has cleared 10 touchdowns 2 of the past 3 seasons. Brown will only be 26 years old in 2023, so he's still in the middle of his prime and one of the best designed offenses in football. Brown will remain a top 5 wideout in the league, and he could ascend as high as number 3 overall behind Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I think, yeah, certainly that is the hierarchy. The top 5 of wide receiver: Jefferson, Chase. I mean, I would put A.J. Brown number 3 right now, and then, yeah, Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. Arrange them how you will. Either way, it is kind of hard to rank those guys, but they are the top 5. And as for the Eagles, well, hey, they had a great season. They might be losing their offensive coordinator, who looks like he'll be the next head coach of the Eagles, but if they can retain, or the Colts, I should say, but if they can retain their quarterback coach and promote him, you know, it might be okay, but I'd still expect him to be okay. Jalen Hurts, I think he has submitted his case as the franchise guy for the Eagles, and I would expect him this offseason to get paid accordingly, and I would expect this contract to work out better than the one that was given to Carson Wentz. And as for the Eagles offense, well, I think Miles Sanders is going to be a free agent. There's a case to bring him back, and there's a case to let him go. I guess it depends on how they feel about Kenneth Gainwell. I think Kenneth Gainwell could step in as the number 1 running back and be just fine. So I think ultimately the price is right. Miles Sanders comes back. And then receiving-wise, I mean, you still got Brown, Smith, and Goddard. So you still got your top 3 guys going into the season. You still got that offensive line. Although Jason Kelce, he might retire. So that's something to keep an eye on right there. The anchor of that offensive line. And, you know, defense. The defense had a great season overall. I think best defense in the NFL. Might not have had their best game per se. You know, Patrick Mahomes certainly didn't light up the stat sheet like Jalen Hurts did. And they struggled to contain Travis Kelce, which is a tall task for any defense. And they certainly didn't get any sacks. But I mean, the Eagles got the Super Bowl because of everything their team did, offense and defense. So I mean, yeah, defense. Yeah, they had a great season. I'm not quite sure what there is for free agents. I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson and his contract is up, so expect him to try to retain his services. And yeah, I don't quite know about other guys. I think certain other key players like Brandon Graham and Darius Slay, I think they're still under contract. James Bradbury might be up for a new contract. I think he's only on a 1-year deal, but either way, how he's going to have his hands full this offseason, because there are still some key pieces there, but you got to pay the quarterback, and you also got to figure out who's staying, who's going, who's coming in, and everything else. So, you know, the Eagles, I would still expect them to be contenders coming into next offseason. Great season for them. And with that, we'll go on and wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.